Hi, I'm KoreAJE.
Watching the YouTube video of the sing-along screening of K-pop Demon Hunters recently got me thinking. In the theater, people were waving K-pop light sticks. Lots of them. I don't know whether Huntrix or Saja Boys have officially released their own light sticks yet. At least when I wrote this, I don't think they had been sold. So you could see that the light sticks people were waving were all different. Seeing fans cheer, wave the light sticks of the artists they love, shout encouragement, and just have a great time, that's really something. As a Korean, that scene stirred something familiar in me and made my chest tighten a little. It called to mind Korean protest scenes. Yes, today I want to talk about how in Korea, people sometimes bring K-pop light sticks to protests instead of weapons. Do you have a light stick? When do you use it? Usually, people bring a light stick to symbolize and cheer for a pop star or performer at a concert or event. How about where you live? Do folks bring light sticks to sing-alongs? In Korea, it's common. Fans wave light sticks not only at singers' concerts, but even at musicals and other types of performances. And it's not only for globally famous youth-crazed K-pop stars. For example, there's a singer named Lim Young-woong who's hugely popular with older people. In Korea, he's a massive star. He's a Trot singer. I briefly talked about the Trot genre in a previous video. It's a style that mixes traditional Korean musical elements with Western music to create a modern sound. But Lim Young-woong's fan base is overwhelmingly older. You'll see elderly fans at his concerts and sing-alongs holding light sticks, singing along, and even dancing a little. What was unusual about the Demon Hunters sing-along was that people weren't waving official Huntrix or Saja Boys light sticks. They brought the light sticks of whichever K-pop acts they loved. That's a very Korean thing. It's awesome. Why? Because this has become a distinctive cultural gesture in Korea. It reminded me of a huge episode in Korea's recent history. What I mean is this. Recently in Korea, people started showing up at protests waving the light sticks of their favorite stars. On December 3, 2024, former President Yeol declared martial law. Many foreigners mistook it for North Korea finally declaring martial law. Haha. Koreans, however, ran out into the streets demanding the martial law be lifted. They literally threw themselves into the fray. We have a history of fighting communism and fighting military dictatorships, and if something like that were to be repeated, no one could stand for it. Thankfully, Yeol lifted the martial law immediately, and in the months that followed, Koreans expressed their anger and pushed for impeachment through protests. Two symbols stood out during those demonstrations, and one of them was the light stick. Protesters came out holding and waving light sticks. Let me take a moment to talk about protests in Korea, more generally. Koreans have a long history of confronting military dictatorships to reclaim democracy. A lot of those demonstrations were led by the younger generation, especially university students who were the force trying to change the country's direction. Those protests continued into the 1990s. Even before the 1980s, there was a painful history of resistance against dictatorship and communist threats, and many protests were intense and sometimes extreme. Let me share a personal memory. I was in middle school in the mid-80s. I remember coming home from school on a bus that got surrounded by protest crowds. We were stuck and couldn't move. Back then, when crowds got excited, people would turn lighters on and off. You still see that in other countries, I think. In the 90s, military dictatorship closed its chapter and government by legitimate elections began. People began to reconsider violent methods of protest. When protesters and those trying to stop them were injured or killed, and when businesses and public facilities were damaged, it became clear that violent tactics didn't benefit anyone. Of course, violent protests still happened after the 90s, but demonstrations gradually became more peaceful. An interesting shift occurred toward the late 1990s when cell phones, in Korea we call it handphone, became common in Korea. At protests, people replaced lighters with their phone screens, turning them on and off to show excitement. Over time, candles took the lighters' place. The most notable case was the 2016 Candlelight protests against former President Park Geun-hye. She was the daughter of Park Chung-hee, a legendary dictator in Korean history, and many felt she squandered the chance to redeem her father's name. Furious Koreans forced her impeachment. During those protests, people marched holding candles and cups. In fact, media records show Korea's earliest documented candle vigil took place in 1974. Since then, candles have appeared in many protests, but the 2016 movement made them a widespread symbol. After that, candles became a protest icon. Those who opposed the impeachment mocked candles as something that would just blow out in the wind, and some protesters even used LED candles that wouldn't go out and pose no fire risk. Haha. Then, in 2024, lightsticks emerged. Is it because Korea is the home of K-pop, or does it reflect a real generational change? In the 2024 protests over Yoon's Yeol, demonstrators began showing up and waving the lightsticks of the K-pop stars they loved. For a protester, a lightstick is deeply meaningful. Think about it. It's gear for a star you support and admire. It's a precious item you'd normally keep carefully so it doesn't get scratched. They brought those treasured items out into the streets. You have to give them credit for that passion. If the situation changes and you're waving a light stick on a stage or in a theater instead of at a protest, as long as you're not disrespecting the performer, that's actually a very beautiful thing. And I think it's a very Korean gesture. Congratulations! You understand Korea more than someone who simply knows how to use chopsticks well. Haha. Oh, wait. My friends keep asking me, what should you do if you accidentally run into a protest while you're in Korea? Haha. Honestly, I strongly recommend you avoid protest areas. After December 2024, a lot of foreigners were captivated by the festival-like atmosphere of some Korean protests, K-pop music, dancing, the vibe, and they got swept up. But even the most peaceful protest can carry risks, and you never know how a situation might unfold, so the safest choice is to steer clear. When you arrive in Korea and swap a SIM card or borrow a smartphone, you may receive government alerts telling you where protests are happening. Use those alerts. If you didn't know there was a protest and you find yourself inside one, don't panic. Get out as soon as you can. If you need help, grab anyone nearby and ask for assistance. If there's a shop nearby, go in and ask for help. If you say, I'm a foreigner and I'm here by accident, I want to get somewhere safe, people will help you. Even groups that are in confrontation or the police will often pause to help a clearly lost foreigner. Haha. Another idea. Wear a funny Korean t-shirt while you're walking around. A shirt with a playful Korean phrase in big Hangul like 난 이뻐, or one that says 안녕, 난 Johnson in Korean. Those shirts tend to make Koreans smile and feel friendly toward you. People will warm up to you, you might get smiles everywhere you go. They'll think, oh, this person likes and respects our culture. But you don't need to dance in the street. Haha. If you want one of those shirts, tell me, I'll make it for you. On my channel's main page, next to the subscribe button, there's a link where I show the merch I design and sell. If you want a custom design to express your personality, I can do that too. Check it out. So, today I talked about Korea's protest culture. Did you enjoy it? Have you ever seen a protest in your country? What was it like? If you haven't, consider yourself lucky. It's natural for people to protest for their causes, but when possible, insisting on your rights without violence is a good path. Although I recognize that in very hard situations, people sometimes feel they have no choice but to use force, like in Korea's past under military dictatorship. Those are my personal thoughts. I want to hear yours. Leave a comment. And if you like this video, likes and subscribes really help me produce more. If you want to support me, buying me a coffee goes a long way. If you have questions about Korea or Korean culture, ask in the comments and I'll explain in future videos. Anything about Korea, I'll cover it. All right, see you next time.